So a short while ago, my friend was really sad, and that's because he couldn't put his turntables or vinyl anywhere in his new flat, so I offered to make him something. And I've never considered myself to be any good at woodworking, but I have made a few things before. So he showed me the space and he sent me the dimensions, and also sent me an existing piece that he'd liked. And looking at it, it looks easy enough to do, so let's begin. So to begin with, I had a look at what wood I already had and saw that there was a few lengths of this old tulip wood, so I went ahead and used that. The only issue with the tulip wood I had was that there was a mixture of thicknesses and widths, so I had to work out what was going to work. The design itself is really straightforward. There are 4 shelves that crisscross the 3 thicker vertical pieces that hold the shelves in place. At the bottom of the middle vertical piece, I've set it in a little bit further because I don't want my friend stubbing his toes. I've also set the shelves flush with the rear of the uprights because I'd like it to sit as close to the wall as possible. The top of the shelf will hold his vinyl players, and these cubby holes will hold his vinyl. There are also other spaces on the unit which can hold books and whatever else he'd like to put on it. To start, let's begin with marking out the lengths we need and start cutting them up. With the lengths cut to size, I started marking out where the slots would go in the middle vertical piece. Marked out and ready to cut, I started to cut out the marked areas. After I'd made the first set of slots in the middle upright, I wasn't too happy with the way it came out. Maybe it was my technique or the cheap router bits I had, but I decided to change the method and use a rail saw instead. I repeated the same process with the horizontal pieces. I also use a jigsaw and chisel to square up the corners. Once all the slots were cut out of the shelves and the vertical bits, I went ahead and gave it a test fit. Most of them were pretty good, apart from there was just a few that needed to be opened up a bit more. I also hadn't cut deep enough into some of them because the shelves wouldn't sit flush to the rear of the uprights. Adjustments made, I put it back together again just to see if anything else needed to be done. But all the bits slid onto one another really well, so I stood it up and see how it looked. But looking at it, and measuring the back of my car, I realised it wasn't going to fit as a complete unit. The idea was to glue the whole thing together and move it as a solid piece. But as I wasn't going to be able to transport it like that, I opted to use fixings. When in reality this works a lot better, because if my friend was ever to move again, he could collapse the whole thing down and easily move it himself. For fixing the top shelf down, I went and used M8 countersinks because I needed the whole thing to be flush so it could sit the vinyl players on top. Top bolted on, it really made the whole thing sturdy. I sent a progress update to my friend and he seemed really excited about it, so I cracked on. For the rear fixings that would hold the shelves on, I needed them to be hidden around the back. Initially I was going to get some steel brackets, but I didn't really like the look of them, so I went ahead and designed some of my own based around using M4 countersink bolts. Once I designed them, I 3D printed them in ABS. I test fitted the 3D printed brackets around the back just to see what they would look like, and I thought they looked pretty cool. For some reason, I didn't fit the brackets in there. I took the whole thing apart and decided to get sanding, removing any imperfections and pencil marks I left whilst I was marking everything up. Whilst I was sanding everything down, I knew that there was this one bit that had been filled and I thought I could possibly get past it or just ignore it, but I couldn't. So I ended up clearing it out, and I've seen other people use resins and such to fill these sorts of crevices, but I have no patience. So I went and tried using super glue, which is probably the part where I messed up the most. I let the glue set and it ended up looking like a misty cracked ice, or at least that's how I'm describing it. I then cleaned the wood up a bit before sealing it. And by clean, I mean slap the dust off with an old rag because I don't have a compressor to do otherwise. At this point I did get a bit ahead of myself. I was supposed to get the inserts in the back before sealing it, but I completely forgot, so I ended up doing it the other way around. I came back later in the evening to do the other side. I'm pretty sure I had dinner cooking at the time, so I was trying to quickly get the sealer on when suddenly... Thankfully there was no dents or scratches, so I just wiped over it with a bit more sealer. I came back in the morning once it had sealed, and then I sanded it back just to make it smooth. Here I was just slapping the wood again with a cloth, alongside using some lighter fluid and another rag to clear it from the dust I had made from sanding it down. After sealing and sanding all the pieces and getting it back together, I finally got round to doing the rear brackets. I had a printed out drilling jig and pre-drilled each hole before opening them up to fit the M4 inserts, being super careful I wasn't going to ruin the finish on the wood. I didn't actually test out the M4 countersinks in my 3D printed brackets beforehand, so putting them on and realising that they weren't flush within the brackets, I took them out, adjusted my design and printed some new ones which worked really well. So at this point I got the brackets in there on the back, I got it back on its feet, and I was really happy with myself at this point. The last thing to do was to take the whole thing apart, wrap it up, get it in the car and get it to my friend's flat in London.